Well, good afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar. This is Planning a Simple Order of Service with Lutheran Service Builder. This will be an overview webinar of the Lutheran Service Builder software. We'll start kind of at ground zero and work our way up into a simple order of service. My name is Peter Frank. I'm the Senior Manager of Marketing Technology here at Concordia Publishing House. That means that I do a number of different things, from marketing our technology to managing our marketing technology. So I wear a lot of different hats. The hat I'm wearing today is one of hosts for this webinar, where I'll be introducing Ken Olemeyer in just a moment. He'll be leading the presentation on Lutheran Service Builder. Now, I'm also part of the Lutheran Service Builder team and have led many of these webinars myself, so I'm going to stick on the line and answer any questions that you might have. You can put them into the GoToWebinar panel, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But if you have questions after this, or if you need help getting to the right person, feel free to reach out to me at my contact information on the screen. peter.frank@cph.org is the best way to get a hold of me, although you can also call my phone too. It's often forwarding to voicemail, but I always try to check them as quickly as possible. So feel free to reach out to me in either way. Ken Olemeyer is our presenter today. He's also a senior manager in our marketing department, but his job is a little bit different than mine. I'll talk about that in just a few moments when I officially introduce him, but his contact information is on the screen too. And just like me, Ken is always happy to speak with you. And if he doesn't know the answer, he'll find the person who does. So feel free to reach out to either of us with any questions you might have. A few housekeeping items before we go too far. Our plan for today is about 50 minutes for presentation. Now, Lutheran Service Builder is a very big software that can do a lot of different things. The great thing about it is you don't have to learn too much to get using it. So we're going to cover it at a high level, and we'll go as far into the weeds as possible during that time allotted. But just know there's plenty of things that we won't be able to show you today that allow you to really customize your order of services. Again, the name of the game today is Simple Order of Service. We'll plan for 10 minutes of questions at the end. Now, if we have too few questions, well, that's okay. We'll stop short. We have too many, we're happy to keep going. Don't feel obligated to stay on. But in order to manage our time the best, we ask you to ask the questions throughout. In our GoToWebinar panel, there's a questions button, and when you go in there, you can ask that question, and I'll see it. I've got it on this screen over here. During the presentation, while Ken's talking, I'll be watching the questions and answering any of them that I can. And then during the Q&A time, we'll answer them for everybody. So everybody will get that benefit, but you also will get your question answered as soon as possible. Finally, we are recording this webinar. We'll be sharing that recording probably tomorrow morning. That's our goal. It's usually takes about 24 hours to get everything downloaded and processed and uploaded and the email sent out. So take a look for that sometime tomorrow morning. That's my intention, to get it to you then. A few assumptions that we make about the people who are attending today. This allows us to kind of put on the right mindset of who we're talking to. Since we do have a group of people, and we know all of you are definitely different in different ways, I think there's a few safe assumptions we can make. The first one is, I'm assuming you're at least familiar with Lutheran Service Builder. You might be using Lutheran Service Builder 2, you might be using the online version, or you might have just heard about it from the email that we sent out. Anyway, we're not going to get into too much detail about what it is, but how it works. I am assuming that you're not using the online version. As Ken presents, he's going to talk about some things that are pretty basic. Now, if you are using the online version, that's okay. You're just going to know some of the things we talk about, but I'm sure you're going to pick up some tips and tricks. We just prepare this presentation as if you are not using it, so we don't skip over any of the important details. Finally, I'm assuming you're looking to save time in the church office, and this is probably a pretty safe bet. I've never met anyone who works in the church who says, you know, I just wish I didn't have to be here 40 hours a week because there's not enough to fill my time. Now, maybe that's the case in some smaller congregations where there's not much going on, but I'm guessing you're not working the whole week. The smaller congregations I know often have part-time office workers where the pastor is wearing many hats. So I think that's a pretty safe assumption that all of you are looking to save time. Now, I'd like to ask you a few questions about yourself before we go too far. I'm going to put some poll questions out here. The first one is asking you to describe what role you have in the church. Now, we know, like I just mentioned, people wear lots of different hats. This is the one that describes you best, the one where you're your primary hat, if you will. So we'll give another few seconds for everybody to vote. I know sometimes people have trouble using the voting system, so if you can't vote or if it doesn't let you for some reason, you can just put that into the questions. But we are just about there. I'm going to go ahead and close it and share these results so that you can see who is here with you. So it looks like we've got 38% are ordained pastors, 44% are in that administrator role, 6% are musicians, and 13% are in the other role. And that other role can mean a number of different things. I'd love to hear what your other role is. If you want to put that in the questions, that'll be interesting for us, although certainly not required. The next question is just to see if you're currently using the online version of Lutheran Service Builder. So if you're using the online version, please mark yes or no, but planning to subscribe soon. This will help us know exactly how experienced our user base is. Now, during this pandemic, we offered a free license for several months. That has since expired, but I know that created a lot of interest in and really kind of got a lot of new people involved. So that's one of the reasons why we're doing this webinar, but it looks like we are kind of split. 47% yes, 35% no, and 18 no, but planning too soon. So about 50-50 between yes and no. All right, very good. Well, the outline for today's presentation, we're going to start off with a brief overview. Ken's going to walk through the navigation, through the interface, just give you some of that kind of lay of the land, help you understand what it looks like. Then he'll go through and plan a service. We're going to be looking at a simple order of service. We'll select the different elements, show how you can search for different things. Then we'll talk about the formatting, or Ken will walk you through how to format your bulletin to export. And that goes into the kind of the styles, the word processing, how that all works. Lutheran Service Builder really can save you a lot of time with that, even if your order of service, or maybe I should say especially if your order of service is very simple. And then finally, you'll see how to export the content. And that'll go out into a Word document, or if there's presentations, it'll go out to PowerPoint. But that's really that last step. And honestly, you can do all of those things except the last step by using our free trial. So if you are one of those people who have not subscribed yet, and you maybe haven't even started your free trial, I encourage you to do that right now. Go to LutheranServiceBuilder.com. You can start it up. There's no end date on it. You can do everything but export. That'll allow you to follow along with the presentation today, because that's a key part of it, is to really do the actions while you're seeing Ken describe them so that you can learn and put it into practice at your church. All right, well, without further ado, allow me to introduce Ken Olemeyer. Ken is a senior manager in our marketing department. Like I mentioned, his job is quite a bit different than mine. While I work with technology, Ken works with people all day. He communicates, and when we're not in a pandemic, he travels to different churches, talks with pastors and church office workers and treasurers and lay leaders alike, just to find out what they're doing in their church, how we can help, how they're using our products, and then he comes and shares all that information with us. And so Ken has a number of stories that he shares specifically about Lutheran Service Builder, but then also about all of the other products that we have. And so he's kind of that feedback loop for us between our customers, and one of many different ways we do that here, but Ken's that personal touch. So Ken, thank you so much for leading the webinar today. I'm excited to hear what you have to share about Lutheran Service Builder and how our customers are using it for simple services.
Well, thank you, Peter. And it is so great to be back with everybody again today. And if you're watching us live, it's afternoon time, so many of us probably have just had lunch or looking to have lunch. We'll do this with some high energy. If you're watching this later, we'll keep that energy going. And I'm glad that you're having a chance to watch this. As Peter said, my name is Ken Olemeyer, and I am a senior marketing manager here at Concordia Publishing House. I'll get into, as what Peter talked about, what some of my role is and some of the different things I do. But, I think it's safe to say that by 4 to 6 months into this now, many of us are starting to get a little bit of this pandemic fatigue. And we continue to pray for our brothers and sisters who are ill or hurting in other ways. Maybe it's employment or other things. And we continue to pray for you in the church. Who would have ever thought months ago, what this coronavirus was going to do and how it was going to change things. And, one of the biggest changes I've noticed over the last few months is during this shelter in place, the number of LCMS churches that are getting the gospel message out either through their YouTube channels, their Facebook pages, Instagram, different type of web pages, to get that message out there. And for many of it, if you haven't been a video church before, are you now? Is it something that you're doing? I know for many of us, it is a pain point. If we weren't already there, we had to scramble to get there. Hopefully by now you're doing better with it, and it's becoming a little more commonplace. Because I'm an elder at my church, and I know how this pandemic has made things even busier at times. And we keep thinking, is it ever going to slow down, or is the summer months going to be a little bit easier? Who knows? And who knows what the next few months are going to be. But if you think about it, because of all this change, though, there sometimes comes a point where we just need to simplify. And many of our church services have been abbreviated now, probably not by our own choice. It's probably more, city or county health restrictions, or maybe you're able to now add a midweek service, maybe a shortened service, a Vesper service, or a morning matin service, or maybe you're able to do some homebound visits and such. So if you're already using a abbreviated or simpler service, we'll touch on that. But if you're not, I just want to kind of highlight how easy it is to use Lutheran Service Builder to put together a service like that. As Peter said, in my role at CPH, I go out and I visit with a lot of pastors and admin people and teachers and music directors, etc., people just like you. And I hear how hectic it can be all year long. And I've grown up Lutheran all my life, but it wasn't until I started working within the church that I even understood just how much effort goes into planning a service. And as a layperson who gets the benefit of enjoying that worship service, thank you for all that you do on this. And I want to be able to share how this software can help you on this. Now, admittedly, the software is not something I use every day, but it's actually one of my favorite ones to work through and do. And that's one of the reasons I love sharing it with you as well. I always say to people, if I can do this, you can do this. But I'm going to show you how easy it is to plan, to edit, to customize, to save, to make it a printable piece or a PDF that you can add into your emails or on your website, all of those different things. And part of this too is we've been listening a lot of years on this too. We've listened to customer concerns or ideas or things like this, and we've made some pretty big advancements over the years. So I want to share some of those with you. Now, what can Lutheran Service Builder do for you? Well, if you're like me, I love our liturgy. I love the hymnody. I love the order of things. I love the scriptural references throughout. And with Lutheran Service Builder Online, this version, you can simplify how long it takes you to put that service together. And what that means is it's going to free you up for other ministry that you can do. Now, it might require a change in how you normally do things, but really, if you can pick up this software, and it's interesting that we're about 50-50 on who's using it and who's not, but if you can pick up this software, who wouldn't want something that's a little bit easier to use and frees you up for more time? So what are we going to talk about today? Well, we're not going to be able to cover everything. As Peter said, we're going to focus on just putting together a short, simple service, maybe an abbreviated service. And our recommendation is really just to dig in. If you're not using that free trial, perhaps you did take advantage of that free COVID-19 license that we had during the initial shelter in place. But if you haven't yet, jump in, do the free trial, as Peter said. There's no credit card needed or anything like that. You're under no obligation. But I think you'll find that you'll be able to start using this software very quickly and start seeing how, A, how quick it is to be able to pick up, and B, how much time you're going to save. Now, there were a couple cautions on this free trial. Again, you can't export, print, or copy and paste or things like that. But during this time, and even if you are currently using the software, we have a full support team for you to contact and help with any questions. That's why we're here. That's why we have people in place to be able to answer your questions, to make sure that this software investment that you're doing for your church is something that's going to be helpful. There's nothing more frustrating than getting a new piece of software, having to try to learn a new piece of software, and not having it do what you want it to do. So ask your questions. Look at some of the training that we have online. Just whatever you need, we're here for you. So Last thing I want to mention though is also the added flexibility that you're going to find out on the online version is at the same price point if you're using the disc version. So there's no upcharge or nothing like that, and it's going to be much more convenient for you. So I'm going to switch over to my account right here. I'm going to show my screen, and I'm going to go screen monitor 2. I'm going to show my screen, make sure that it's there for you. You should be seeing my opening screen right there. If you're not, please let us know and we'll try to address that, but there should be the opening screen. So when you sign in, this is going to be the view that you're going to see, app.lutheranservicebuilder.com. This is your main screen. And as I mentioned briefly before, one of the biggest advantages to this online version really came into play during the COVID-19 and the initial shelter in place. And again, for many of you, you may just start opening up, or you may be closing back down again, but it's the ability to work from anywhere out of the office. You're not tied down to that one computer that may have had the program loaded to it. So you can take this out onto your back deck. You can take it into a coffee house if you want to do that, or you can work on it from your laptop in your easy chair, in your recliner. It's also PC and Mac compatible. That was one of the things we kept hearing from people say, I'd love to have a Mac version of this. Well, this online version allows you to have that. It also gives you the ability to share in the planning of the service. And I'll show you a couple ways you can do that, maybe with your team, get some added input or have them contribute to a few sections here and there. And it also gives the ability then to save it as a PDF or something that you can attach to an email or easily put it up on your website or any other means to get it out there to your people. So let's do a quick review of the navigation right now. As we look at the opening screen here, and I'm going to use my cursor and point to a couple different areas, and hopefully you're seeing that on your screen. But right off the bat, you see this cross to the left type thing. That is your home screen. That will always get you back to this. Then you see the calendar view, and the calendar view is great because it shows all the different holidays. It shows different things that you've added, weddings and funerals and things of that nature. You can go back in time and take a look and review what you've done. You can also then, and this is a big advantage too, you can plan ahead. You can start working ahead, and however many weeks that might be for you, you can start looking ahead and starting to plan your services. And I'll talk about this later, but anything that's behind us, you can't go in and re-edit or things like that. It's still there for you, and you can open it up and review it and get a sense of what you had done for that service. But anything that you start planning ahead, as long as that date has not already passed, you can still go in and make edits and tweaks. And what I love about that, we talk about, will it get slower during the summer? In a slow time, you can start moving ahead and being prepared for your upper services for months ahead, and then go back in as you get closer and just make those final tweaks, those final edits. Okay, the other thing you've got here at the top is a search bar. So you can click into that and search. You can search songs, you can search words, phrases, Bible references, hymn by number, or different topics or things of that nature. And then I'm going to click out of it here on the right side. So I'm just going to click that X and be out of there. Next thing you see here is our gear sign or a wheel or a cog. And I'm going to click into that. And you see a number of different things pop up when I click into that. You see the calendar. You see my search. You see my worship resources. So things that I have saved or added into the program, my prayers, my hymns, my common elements. Again, part of the reason why you want to use a software like this is to automate things, is to simplify, is to make it easier for you to be able to address those things that might just be consistent within your congregation as well. So there are templates or tunes, etc. You can also import from an LSBX file. Bulletin formats, presentation formats, I'll come back to that. Then you've got things like your account settings, where you have your church name, your different locations, your users. You can add different users in there as well. Your subscriptions, the content subscriptions that you have, and you can add subscriptions to that. Again, to get out of it, I'm going to click on the right side, this X. And then you also have your preferences and your signouts. So let me go back through and let's take a closer look at these two settings and take a closer look at the formatting of both of these. Bulletin formats and presentation formats. If I click into bulletin formats, our default view pops up. And this is where you can go in, very much like a word processing document where you go into the styles and the layout and the content, but you can change and edit your styles here and your formats, again, to fit your particular needs. But you see, I can pick a selection here, body, heading, captions, the rubrics, the copyright date and information. I can change the font. I can change the font size. I can do some different, highlighting and bolding and italicizing, different things like this. I can even change the color on some of these as well. Paragraph styles, etc. If I go into layout, I've got things like my paper size. I was just looking at a program that somebody had done on their website, and I was trying to print it out to get a better feel for it. And it was a legal size, so the printer didn't print it because I wasn't on the right format. But you can change your paper size here, letter, legal, ledger. You can custom size it. I've been to churches where they actually will take the insert or the brochure and kind of make it just like half a page as well. So there's a lot of different things you can do on here. Again, folded. You have your margins. You can automatically scale it. You can also look at the content that you have. And I like this too, because you can go in and I'll show you how you can make some of these changes on the fly. But if there are certain things that you do all the time, here's a great way to do it. But let's say I always want to have on my hymnody, I want to have the music show. I can put the stanzas and the notes right there. If there are captions, I can do that. Different things here and there. And I'm not going to go through all of these. As you're either using the software now or thinking about doing a free promotion, you can go in there and experiment with all these type of things. But I love that. So I'm going to get done with that. But there's some other ones here, and I'm going to show you on the left side, you see my filter options. So this is my default. I can also have a default creative worship format as well. Again, all the different styles and all this on the right side. I can do a large print, and I know many congregations, they may have some sight impaired members, and the ability to just take what you've already worked on and just increase the size and have everything right there formatted already for you is such a time saver. And I love this as well. So you can use this and have it. The other thing you can do too, you notice down at the bottom, there are different areas here where it says new format, copy this format, delete this format. I can go into one of these formats, copy it, and I did this just right here, demo formatting. And then I went in and started making some edits and some changes to it for my own purposes. So I have that as well, and I saved that. So there's a lot of different options that you have here. Now, it may not be everything you need, and then I'll show you how to save it to a Word document where you can go in and do some additional formatting as well, or maybe adding some images or other things that you might want to do. But let's get into this now and just start planning an upcoming service, and we'll go right back to our calendar view. And the calendar view is always your starting point. This is where you can again see previous services you may have done or looked and start working on future services. You can change this. One thing I want to point out while I'm on this page, you see right here, and I've got it highlighted when I put my finger to it, but there's also a drop-down menu. I can have different campuses in this software as well. So let's say you have two campuses. You have your main campus, and maybe you have a south campus or a north campus or whatever. You can have two different calendars going, and maybe the two different campuses have different style services, or they might be doing different things at that time. You can do this here. Let's say you have a school and you want to have chapel, and you want to just keep all your chapel programs simplified and in one area. You can add that as well. So for purposes of the day, we're just going to stay on the main campus, but I wanted to point that out to you because I think that's a really neat feature, especially if you're dual parish or you have multiple campuses and such. So again, the calendar view comes pre-populated with the different holidays that come up and the special church holidays. And I can keep going through and see what else is coming in. Now you notice something here. Notice how some of these are not bold. Some of these are bold, some of them are not bold. The bold ones are ones that I've actually already started working on and doing different things or saving. And then the ones that are not bold, I just haven't started yet. So just as you see it, you get a quick visual of what you've been working on. So you click on any one of these holidays and you get into the propers view. And that's where all the suggested readings are going to be for the day. And we'll do this as we move along. I'll go into this. And as I said, you can only create or edit events that haven't occurred yet on current or future dates. But you can always look at your past dates and use that for reference. And sometimes that's helpful just to get a sense of, okay, what did we do a year ago at this service? Did I have a different reading maybe, or did I, depending on your lectionary, obviously, but, did I have a special event? Or sometimes I know, I always sign up for our anniversary flowers, and I always get a reminder from our church secretary. And I always say, well, just use the wording I used last year. And God love her, she just goes back and finds it. And I have now since copied and pasted it, so I always know what I said. So, but those are the types of things you can go back and look at things like that. So let's create our custom event. Let's go into this, and it was in July. So let's start doing something here in August. So let's talk about doing a simplified event. And again, if I were to go into any one of these, like August the 9th, and do Pentecost 10, okay, the 10th Sunday after Pentecost, and I'll go through this with you as well, but I want to show you both real quick. And I'm not going to go through the whole thing on this, but the propers pop up, and it gives you your Old Testament readings, your Psalm, different options with Psalm, your epistle, your Holy Gospel, also the introit, the collect of the day, the gradual of the verse, etc. And those will always show up first. And I'm going to get out of this because I don't want to. I'm going to go back to my main. I want to show you just how to do a simplified service here. So let's go start looking at this. And let's say one of the things we've added during this shelter in place is we're already a video church. We're live streaming our Sunday, our Saturday night service, but we really want to stay in touch with the members. And we've never done this before, so we've wanted to start doing an evening Vesper service. So let's say we start doing a Wednesday night Vesper service that we can live stream, just to try to get that touch point with people during the week. I clicked too fast. So when you click into it, and there are two ways to do this. One, if I already have a holiday set, I can click into that holiday and open up. Two, if I don't have a date set or I need to add something into a specific date, I can click right into the date and do this. So I did that. It's our date here, August the 12th, our Wednesday night. The holiday is Pentecost 10. If I were to scroll down, I could pick other days, and it gives me my nearby holidays. It gives me different occasions or things like that. I'm just going to keep it Pentecost 10. We're going to pick up what we did that Sunday before, but it's not the 10th Sunday after Pentecost. I'm going to call it Wednesday evening Vespers. So I'm just going to type that in here, Wednesday evening Vespers. And I love the Vesper service. That's one of my favorites. So I hit plan this service. Okay, now we've moved to this screen, and it did it automatically for me. So basically what it does is it takes everything that's included in the LSB and the book onto my web screen here. So I can start working this, and I see my different reading options. And because I'm going to do just an abbreviated service, I may get rid of one of these readings, or I could add a reading, or I could change these readings. Hymns, I just want to add maybe a couple hymns for the Wednesday evening service. And all we do on this, either add reading, if you click into that, you see some different options, some different suggestions come on to your right side. If I go into hymns and I hit add hymn, again, more things pop up on my right side. In fact, it starts with my hymns for creative worship for that Sunday, for that particular Sunday after Pentecost, or any of the dates that I wanted to choose here. So here are just some suggested hymns there. If I did Propers 14a, here's a hymn here. Hymns for the readings. So there's a number of suggested hymns that can come up for the readings. There are other suggested hymns. So, or I can browse, etc. So I'm just going to grab a hymn here. And this is what we're going to use for our Vesper service. Let's do I Know My Faith is Founded, hymn 587. Now, something else to keep in mind here too, and this is very interesting. On the left side of this, or pardon me, on the right side of the hymn numbers itself, you see this one says NA, but this one says 3 weeks. What that tells me is 3 weeks ago, I used this hymn in one of my services. So if you have a hymn of the month, let's say, that you're teaching your congregation, or let's say there are just favorite hymns that you want to use every other Sunday or something like this, it will keep track of how often you use that hymn. And again, it's just a nice little feature that really helps trigger those memories. So, okay, what did I say I was going to use? Well, I'm going to use now instead, I think I'm going to do Be Still My Soul. All I do is just double click on it. It moves it over to my plannings, my service plan. If I wanted to add another hymn, click into Add Hymn, Built on the Rock. All right, so I'm just going to keep those 2 hymns right there. Now, order of service. I click into this and you see that it's empty. So it allows me to do the different divine services, setting 1, 2 through 5, the daily office services, other services. I'm going to go back to Vespers, but just let you look at what some of the other ones here are. Prayer rites, the responsive prayer, daily prayer for individuals and families. This is another option too that I hear pastors use. They'll put together a daily or maybe a weekly prayer family altar type of program and provide it then as a PDF or whatever to their members. Again, just another touch point, especially during this time where you may not be seeing all of your members right now. It's a way just to put something together and let them be worshiping at home. There are other things, baptism, confirmation, there's pastoral care, communion for the sick and homebound might be another one. As I said, if you're able to now do a few personal visits, maybe with your homebound. I know some of the retirement homes and things like that are now starting to loosen some restrictions on visits. This might be a way just to put quick service together for you and do that. You've got holy matrimony, burials, etc. So let me go back up to here and let's do our Vespers service and just show you how easy it is to put together a Vespers service. So that's my order of service right there. And I could go back then to additional rites. If I click into that, it gives me additional rites that I can add into here. Chances are you wouldn't be adding a baptism or a confirmation or anything like that to a Vespers service. But let's say we were planning a big service, you would have all those options as well. And then I can add additional notes about my service. So I'm just going to get started right here. Simple abbreviated service. So I have 3 different options here to my right side. And you see prepare bulletin, prepare presentation, prepare playlist. So I've already added my readings, I've added my hymns, I've determined my order of service. So I'm going to go straight into here to prepare bulletin. All right, I'm going to go there, hit it one more time. I might have to, I'm just going to go back in and just refresh. And sometimes when I sit here and I talk too long, it needs a minute to think about it. Okay, so it's loading my service. So apologize for that little glitch. But here it is when I hit prepare the program, prepare my bulletin. This is the page that opens up and it lays it all out. It tells me I'm in my Vespers order of service. It again, if you follow through with where you are in the hymnal in the book, everything is right there. So I can start with the opening there. Oh, Lord, open my lips. Something you'll see as I go through this, you'll see options on this. And this gives you the opportunity to customize and really make it work for your congregation. So when I see a blue bar and an arrow, I click on it and it gives me a couple different options. So it gives me this option here, but there's a warning right here. The Advent is usually omitted during the Pentecost season. And I go down to this one, Lent is usually omitted during the Pentecost season. So I don't think I need to choose either one of those. So I'm going to just stay with what I had, click into that there. And then psalmody, and it says insert psalm here, and I've got different readings. So let's insert one of my psalms that I had. I'm going to do that there, and I'm going to insert my Psalm 18, 1 through 6. So it gives it to me right there. Now you see a few things change at the top too. When I was here in the music section, you see up here caption, text, melody, text and melody. I can move it in different areas. I can delete it. I can go in and do some editing. But let's say I wanted text and melody. I click onto that, and it now gives me from the lectionary side and the pulpit side to be able to do it that way, or from the lectionary to the congregation to be able to do it that way. I can just do the melody itself that way, or let's just say I wanted to have the text and do it that way. So I personally, I love having the melody lines in there. When I go into my psalm that I've brought in, I can also do things where I can put in the break right there and the pointing. I can add a caption. I can do different things like this. Let's say I want to put a tone in there. I can quickly go in and say, okay, I want to do tone C. And we're going to add that in there in our Vesper service. So I'm going to click out of that because I've already put in my psalm. And then let's say I want to do one of my hymns. Click into it. It's going to build, you see, again, different suggested hymns that I could add if I change my mind as I'm going through. But here's my service plan. This is the two that I had picked. So we're going to do Built on the Rock first. And I'm going to put that in there. I just click on it. It immediately puts it into my bulletin that I'm planning right here. Again, I can go back through, and I like to have the melody line in there. I need that when I'm singing. So I've got that there. I can go in and I can edit some of the captions and different things here and there. I can even check to see which stanzas that I want. So maybe we aren't going to do all 5 stanzas. Maybe because we're simplifying the service or abbreviating the service, let's just do the first 3 stanzas. That's how easy it is to go in and make those changes. It's right there at the top. I just down click it, I check box it, it's there for you. All right, I'm clicking out of there. My readings, I'm going to insert my reading. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to do my Old Testament reading. And again, I can go in and change, yes, you see it here, but I can go in and edit this as well. Old Testament reading. I can just make that change like that. And then I'm going to insert, well, I'm going to keep the response. Now I'm going to insert my second one, but I'm going to show you how to then move it. Let's say then I want to put the epistle reading in there, my Romans. So I want to do that right there. So I've just added those in here, and again, I can do that. But now here's where I can move it down too. So let's say I want to do have this come in. I'm going to click out of it. Let's say I just want to move it down after the response. Let's see if I can do that. And just have that right before. Well, actually, I did that to all my readings, and I'll go back in and change that later. But let me go back and just put it back to where, actually, I'm moving it too fast, but you see how easy it is to move things around. I've got my reading now after that, so let me just pop that up there. Okay. So that's my Romans there. Then there's a spot here for a sermon, or you could have catechetical instruction as it is in the Vesper service. So we're going to keep it with our sermon. We could go in there, we could edit the theme, we could add the verses, etc. And then we have our different canticles. We have a spot for the offering. Again, this is just the Vesper service. It's all right here online for you. And go in again, we can change the collects and keep that. If I wanted to change to the other one, all I do is I click on the one that is the other offering, and then it pops up for me. If I needed to add or insert something else, I have it all right here to my right side as well. So I can go in and I can edit these. I can add my own. I'm gonna put this here. Oh, pardon me, my hymn to depart. I'm going to add my second service hymn, Be Still My Soul, and do that. Again, this bar at the top changes depending upon where or what type of area that I'm pulling. So you see that it changes within my templates. I can do it that way. I can edit. I can go in and do some other things. So this bar right here at top 2 also gets me into my document. So I can have the ability to export this document as a Word document, as a rich text format document, or as an HTML. I can also go back in and change the formatting. So I showed you that demo formatting before. If I go in here and I change it, you see it changes the body copy, it changes the different, here, I'm gonna click out of that. It changes, you know, some of the structure and the layout, etc. All I'd have to do is then hit save. If I wanted to change actually my order of service, again, I just click into it. I can change that around as well. So I'm going to do that, but I want to show you something else that's really neat. I want to be aware of the time because I want to make sure I get into my PowerPoint slides, my other ones. You see this option here called Web View. This is really a neat feature too. Enable Web View. I'm going to click into that. And what that's going to do is open up a link. And I'm going to just use this link to share. So I'm going to copy that, and then I'm going to just go here and just copy and go straight to it. But if I were to share this link with somebody, especially one of the members of our team, and it might just be you just want somebody to do some proofreading, or you might want some input to a different hymn or some other things here and there, you can share this link with them and they have access to the web view of this as well. So sometimes that can come in very handy, very convenient when you want a second or third or fourth pair of eyes, or maybe you want to embed that into your website as well so that your parishioners can follow along just right on the website. They can do that, or it could be something that they're looking at it on their mobile as well. So I just think that's a nice feature there. Again, I'm hoping what I'm doing here is just sparking a few ideas too. I'm going through this very fast, admittedly, but hopefully if there's an idea that is sparked, by all means, put that in the chat box and Peter can address those, and we'll have some time at the end to address some questions as well. Last thing on this, and I clicked into it, it showed me some additional search, but last thing on this, just to point out is, and this follows you through no matter what page you're on, or things like this as the admin and the person responsible for putting this together. You see a little circle I here at the bottom right corner. Click into that circle I. And this is kind of your lifeline. This is where you'll always have somebody there to help answer a question or to help point you in the right direction. You can sit here and you can type in to search for help articles. So it might be, how do I format this? Or it might be, how do I insert a new hymn or a new verse? You can type that in there. It will provide some suggested articles for you. It will also just suggest some articles depending on where you are in the different things. But you've got this as well. You can start a chat with us, or let me go back, or you can send us a message. And that's always, this feature is always there. So put in the subject line what you're trying to find or the question that you have. Try to be as specific as you possibly can within the type area there, so that when we get that question, we're able to then address it to you the first time. Granted, we may have to go back and forth a couple times. We don't mind, but the more specific you can be to the issue you're having or the questions that you have, the better our support team can answer it right away for you. Hit send, we'll receive that. You also have an 800 number here that's available to you, 1-800-346-6120. So let me click X, and you just X out of there and you're there. So that's truly as easy as it is. And if I were to hit into document, export, I would do this as a Microsoft Word document. It would take a minute for me to open up. That's just an error that's on mine. It would take a minute there to open up. You see it downloaded right there. If I click into Microsoft Word, it's going to open up this document. And this is where if you needed to do maybe some additional formatting, or there's some additional added materials that you wanted to put in there, you could do that. But here it is as a Word document. We'll just hit enable editing. So there it is the Word document. I can go in and I can make some other changes or some additional editing, etc., and do that. So let me get out of there so as not to confuse things. In fact, let me just close that. All right, got a few more minutes here, and I really want to get to another thing, which is when we start looking at this from a prepare website, things like this. So here we go. It was our August 12th, and you see it's bolded now, so I can click into that. And I'm going to click back into that. And I could have done this through the other pages as well, but I just want to show you how to go back out. So let's say prepare presentation. And this is one of the things too. Not all churches use slide decks. Know that. But you never know what the future impact of this COVID-19 is going to be. We could be potentially moving toward a touchless bulletins, or who knows, or you may need the ability to project your divine service or something like this. I saw a pastor during this time who was doing their online service actually with the slides themselves, and then he was doing the readings, etc., just in a little corner. So he was basically using something like a Loom or one of the slide or screen sharing type of software programs, but he was using the slides as his service, and then he was leading it. And I've seen others who are doing it with the camera right in front of them and things like that. But I just thought that was a neat way to do it and a great use of the preparing slides. So let's prepare our presentation. You click into that, it's going to load it back up. Now you see a couple different things here, and I'm going to click into this. I am in the standard, just basic format here. The basic presentation format is just white and with black on it here. I can scroll down. We have a couple different ones called Iron is another option that has some, and I need to go back in and show you some of the formatting in this as well, and I'll do that here. But I can go back into, this is a demo format that I put together, where I actually put picture behind it. And I think that's kind of nice. And again, this is just for demonstration purposes. If you start going into this route, obviously you want to make sure it's something that's readable and that your folks can see it, and it's all readable and different things. And I'll show you how you can change that around. So I'm going to actually click out of that search, go back into here and go back to presentation formats. And let me just share a little bit of the formatting here with you. Again, the basic format is just plain body type, but I can go in and change that type of thing. I can add different colors to it. I can change my character, my font usage, my size, bold, italicize, etc. The color that I want to use. Again, formatting from paragraph, different things like this. My layout, how I want this sized, whether it's a 4:3 or the 16:9 type of option, 1024 by 768. I can change my margins, etc. I can, again, go back in and change some of the formatting. I'll leave all of this to you. I mean, maybe one of these days we can do a webinar all on formatting, but a lot of this is pretty self-explanatory. And some of it is kind of what your preferences are and what's going to be most readable for your folks. But I love the idea with the demo formatting that I can actually add a picture in. And this is where you can upload your own pictures. Maybe it's, here's a great thing, maybe within the time frame of where you are right now, if you're still worshiping not together as a congregation, you could put pictures of your own, of the church sanctuary in here, and you could put that in the background as you have some of the readings or some of the songs and things like that, just to give your people that feeling that they're really there still and with you. So that's just an idea. So I'm going to click out of that. That's going to take me back to this. And just for grins, I'm going to go back to my document. Again, just for simplicity's sake, I'm going to go back into my basic. Again, you have the options to do different things here, even within this, to change some of your features. If you wanted to change that, you can go in and you see it just changed on me there. Maybe, I don't need that. So there's still a lot of editing and things you can do in this nature from here. You can also go in and insert different things, captions, hymns, readings, the rubrics, the prayers. I'm going to go back into my document here and do this for you. If I export this, it gives me a couple different options. One is my Microsoft PowerPoint option. Again, depending on how much formatting you want to get into on this program, you can even just do it very simple, import it into your Microsoft PowerPoint and do some formatting at that stage. Or you can have a Media Shout 6 option here to save it and export it. The last thing I want to show, and I love doing this as well, is adding some music. Oh, pardon me. I'm going to go back into my Wednesday evening Vespers. I'm going to go prepare playlist. Now, what I'm going to show you is if you have a Concordia Organist account as well. And when we get finished with this, Peter will kind of explain some of the differences on some of these type of things. But I tell this story all the time, and I just think it really fits. I once visited a pastor in Iowa, and it was a smaller church. And we were talking about his services, and he was showing me the sanctuary and things like this. And I love those. So if I ever have a chance to come out and visit your sanctuary, I'd love to do that. Or I'd love to even see just pictures of your sanctuary. But I'm talking to him, and he was one of these guys who was great with the slides. And he had his little clicker, and he was able to put his whole service in the slides, and it was just him. And he was able to embed the music at certain points throughout the worship service. And he just, I could tell he was just one of these great tech guys who just really kind of got into that aspect of it. And he told me the story that one time a visitor came up to him afterwards and introduced themselves and said how much they enjoyed the service. But he actually said, I really, really enjoyed your organist. I thought they were fantastic. Well, he was using the Concordia Organist for his services. And I'll show you how some of this works here, just how useful that can be for you. And especially, again, during this time of shelter in place, you may not have your organist, or everybody may not be available for some of your services. Here's another option for you. So when you go through this, and I'm going to hit a couple of these and see if they actually will play. Okay, that was a quick one. Whoop. Gives you the tone, and hopefully I'm going to be quiet here just for a second. Make haste to deliver me. And see, you get that right there, and you can add that. So I'm going to add that to my service. So I'm going to say include. And here was my hymn, Built on the Rock. And again, this is if you have the Concordia Organist. I'm going to play that. It gives you the full organ accompaniment with this. Again, this is an optional. You don't necessarily, this may not work for you, but if you are in need of having an organist accompaniment, you can do that. So I'm going to hit that. I'm going to hit include. I'm just going to go through these just very quickly. You see that include the Magnificat. Can do that. Include Kyrie. I'm going to hit include. And you see the ones that I've included went from bold to unbold. I'm going to include my final song here. And then let's make sure that's included. And then I'm going to export it. So I've included all my different music files. I'm going to export it as a zip file that's going to have the MP3 files in it. So that's how then you can use this and incorporate music into your worship service. All right, I go back to my cross here. We've got a few more minutes just to wrap up. As I said, there's so much that you can do with Lutheran Service Builder. And I think this is truly one of the most versatile types of software that's out there right now. It also can be done with your phone. You can have the app, and I've talked to pastors who will use it for hospital visits and things of that nature, be able to pull up a service right there from their phone and be able to walk through a service with a homebound or a hospital patient. But this overview was just beginning to scratch the surface, and we were trying to simplify it with doing a simpler service like a Vespers service. But I really do hope it sparked an idea or two with you. You know, what you can do with this service is actually provide your church with a properly designed, no pun intended, but properly designed worship service bulletin and do it in no time at all. I mean, you saw how quick it was just to kind of go through this even in our 35, 40 minutes or so doing this. Now, we offer a lot of different types of webinars and things like that. It's going to be a few weeks probably since we do another one, but there's many of them that are on our Concordia Technology Solutions website page as well in the training area. But be looking for announcements and be looking for those emails. And I know sometimes it seems like we send out a lot of emails, but it's really helpful if you stay on our different lists so that you get all these different announcements and things like that nature. If there's anything I can ever do for you, by all means, please let me know, and please reach out to us or Peter or any one of our Concordia Technology Solution support staff. I always say it, and it sounds kind of corny, but it's Concordia Technology Solutions, Solutions is in the name. That's why we're here for you. We want to provide solutions for you and the church. And I'm going to switch it back over now to Peter. I see he's grabbed it back, and he'll help address any questions. Thank you so much for your time. I do hope this was helpful, and we look forward to talking with you more. So Peter, back to you.
Well, fantastic job, Ken. Thank you so much for sharing all that. I hate to correct you on one thing, but I do want to make one thing clear. With Concordia Organist, all of the elements that have music are automatically included. And so when you were clicking that include button, you're actually deselecting it. So bold is good. So just yeah, a little bit of reverse of what you're saying, but everything else was just great. So thank you very much. Well, one of our most common questions, or I should say the most common questions, revolve around pricing. And it can be a little bit complicated. So I want to take a few minutes to go through that, because with the different licenses and copyrights and all of that, it's a lot to take in. And especially during this time when churches are trying to figure out streaming for their church and what do they need to be legal. We really appreciate all of you who really want to be legal. So we've tried to make it as easy as possible, but copyrights is a complicated subject. So allow me a few minutes to explain it as best as I can. Copyrights are divided up into really three different ways of doing this. There is the liturgy, there are the hymns, and then you have Concordia Organist, which is kind of its own thing. So we'll keep that separate. But there's what we have is called the liturgy license and the hymn license. And the liturgy and hymn licenses cover their appropriate content and allow you to reproduce in print or in presentation, and also in streaming or recorded videos, those specific types of content. So the liturgy license allows you to do the liturgy in any of those formats, and the hymn license allows you to do the hymns. Now with the hymn license, there are a few exceptions depending on what you're doing. There are 2 hymns that you can't print, and there are 10 hymns that you can't stream or post online just because of rights. And that's explained in the copyrights or in the actual licenses. But out of the 600 hymns, having 2 that you can't print and 10 that you can't stream is not too bad at all. Now, the way that we've got the pricing set up is that Lutheran Service Builder, the software, includes the liturgy license with it. So you never need to buy both. If you buy Lutheran Service Builder or subscribe to Lutheran Service Builder, you've already got the liturgy license. The hymn license is always separate. So we're going to talk about those 2 prices differently. So here you'll see on the screen that Lutheran Service Builder, which includes the hymn license, has a first-year price in that second column and every year after that in the third column. You might ask, well, why is there a larger upfront price? It goes back to copyrights. Because when you first gain access to this, you have the ability to export everything. There's kind of that risk protection in there that our copyright holders require. And so that's where there's that initial front price. And then the legal use to continue using that content year in, year out is after that. So you'll see those different prices there, and we've had many discussions about how do we best structure the pricing. Well, we wanted to get the lowest prices possible for as many churches, and so the lowest price there is $425 and $175, and we were able to stretch it all the way to weekly attendance of 200 or more, which covers the vast majority of LCMS congregations. So most of our customers are in that plan. We often have people say, well, can't you divide the plans even more? It's like, well, we could, but then we're just going to have to charge more for it. That's the lowest possible price we can do it with all the copyrights that are included in that. So there's those prices, and then the hymn license, which is separate. Now, the weekly attendance is all structured in the same way. There is no initial upfront price on that. There's the annual price every year for that hymn license. Now, in addition to giving you the legal right to print and display in a presentation and stream and post on a recorded video or audio of those hymns, it also tracks your usage and shares that with us. So there's other hymn licenses out there, but you'll have to report your usage with that. With Lutheran Service Builder and the hymn license, if you're using those 2 together, it automatically reports the usage of it. And so again, think of that time savings. It's a little bit every week. It's not like it's a terrible process to go in and say, okay, I use these 4 hymns. But if you start doing that 52 times a year, think of how much time that adds up to. And so with Lutheran Service Builder and the hymn license, it automatically does that, shares that information with us. We pay out the royalties to the copyright holders. Everybody's happy. So those are the two licenses if you're looking to export an entire service, including the hymns. Now, the last one is Concordia Organist, which is what Ken was showing at the end, the audio recordings of the service music and the hymns. That's just one price to be able to export that and use it. So that's $225 per year, regardless of church size. And it allows you to export whatever is in Concordia Organist, which is all of our hymns and the liturgy music that goes with it. So that's a pretty great deal when you consider what the price of a substitute organist might be. Now, if you don't have an organist at all, you might be using this week in, week out. And I know many churches do that, kind of like what Ken was talking about earlier. But it's also just a beneficial thing for when your organist is on vacation and you can't find a substitute, or if you're wanting to use the music on shut-in visits. We hear that quite a bit. So those are the three options that we offer. Now we have other add-ons like creative worship, and we're exploring adding on other things. If you buy any of our Lenten or Advent resources, often we'll include Lutheran Service Builder files with those too. So the type of content goes beyond these three, but these are kind of our core products with Lutheran Service Builder. And I know there's a lot of questions that I probably didn't answer, so feel free to put them into the Q&A. You can also reach out to me afterwards at my email or my phone number, or if you're ready to get started, you can speak with the software consultants. They're the ones who handle all of our license agreements and help you get up and running with the software. They're really your next step if you want to move forward with it. So if you are ready to move forward and you contact me, I'll probably send you over to them because they'll be able to help you best. But if you have specific questions that you want to get answered before you get started, feel free to reach out to me too. But a better opportunity would be right now in the chat. You can put that in the questions and I'll answer that live for the benefit of you and everyone else here. Now, we already have some questions in there, so I'll start with those. And then if you have any others, we'll get to those at the end. So some of these, Ken, I think you did a great job of answering. They just asked it before you got to that point in the presentation. So the first one on here is about exporting. What does it mean when the trial includes everything exported? What does export actually include? Well, like you showed, you can export basically means take anything out of Lutheran Service Builder. So you're going, if you want to export to a bulletin, that means downloading the Word file. If you're going to export to a PowerPoint, downloading that PowerPoint. If you're going to export Concordia Organist to a zip file of MP3s, well, each of those things require you to pay for it. The trial doesn't allow that. So that's what exporting means. And the question is, well, why? Why not? Why can't we try it before we buy it? Well, it goes back to our fun friend copyrights. Because of the usage in that, we have to track all of the usage and pay out the royalties appropriately. And so that's why we can't allow it. And I know that's frustrating. During the pandemic, we did offer a free promotional license. That was something different. That's not a free trial. That was a specific license where we were taking care of all the copyrights on our end as a benefit to you. So it can be confusing. That led to lots of questions about why can't you offer this all the time? Well, we offered the product for free all the time. We wouldn't be able to support the product and continue offering it. So there's that. All right.
Well, one thing real quick too, when you talk about support the product, what's great about the online version is we do make advancements and we do add things that are automatic to your subscription. So, you know, it may not be every quarter or every couple of weeks, but there are some different advancements that when we hear from our customers that they would love to see something like this, if it's something we can do, Peter, you know this better than me, you add it. And much unlike, you know, maybe the old disc versions where there weren't as many updates.
Oh yeah, it was a lot harder to update when it's a physical thing that we have to send out or run through the internet and have you download it yourself. You say that, I'm kind of chuckling because just a little while before we got online, I set up a new meeting for tomorrow with our editorial and our development team. We meet on a weekly basis and we've got a blocked set amount of time for that. But we've had so many different things come up over these last few weeks. It's like, all right, we got to call a separate meeting to talk about how are we going to do this all? How are we going to prioritize it? What's the timeline? So we've got some pretty exciting things coming. It's funny how customer feedback works. We'll see these trends where at this point, it's clear that this is what all of our customers are asking for. So we put that in there and then something else rises to the top and we hear it more than ever before. So it's been really a fun experience to just continue hearing from our customers. Julie, who's already left, has asked where can she find LSB tutorials online. I shared some links with everybody in the questions. So our resource center has all of our webinar recordings, and our help center, which Ken pointed out before, has lots of different articles. Those are the best and easiest ways to get help. Our support team also is always available Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 5 via chat and email and phone. So we want to get you the help you need. Let's see, what's next? Jeffrey asked a question about the web view and said, does that link remain static even after editing? And absolutely it does. Once you share it, then you've got a designated link for it. It's a very unique link. And if you make updates, you can update the content on that link without changing the link. Now, if you stop sharing it and then you reshare it, well, that updates the link too. But as long as you don't stop sharing it, that link will always stay static. All right. Ryan asked, and I confused the question, and then he corrected me, letting me know that Ken answered it. So Ryan asked the question, are you able to insert header information such as pastor name, organist, etc.? And he asked that during the web view, and I was thinking he meant add it to the web view, but he actually meant just bulletins. So with bulletins, like you said, Ken, you just go ahead and add that stuff in Microsoft Word. If you're wanting to do it on the web view, that's a custom element, and that's a little bit more advanced. We've got some webinars that cover that in great detail. But he was actually asking the easier question, which is the answer is just do it in Word. There's a lot of options there in Word. All right, let's see. Next up, Erica asked the question, when you download your document, it goes into a Word doc. Will you ever have it download into a Google Doc? And that's something we've definitely talked about. There's a lot of challenges with the Google APIs that come into that and getting the formatting just right. We've found that, and has been several years since we did a deep dive into that. And so it's one of those things we're due to look at again. But Word documents have a much better ability to download and export exactly how Builder sets it up. What we don't want to have happen is that you put it together in Builder, send it to Google Docs, and it looks different. Maybe not real different, or maybe it is really different. That's not a great experience. But we found that if you export it into a Word document, bring that Word document into Google Docs, it stays exactly how you had it planned. So that's our recommended path. We're always looking for ways to improve, and so that's something we'll look at again and see if maybe Google's improved their formatting. All right, let's see, next up. Any plans, Jeffrey's asking, any plan to export to Apple Keynote slide format? I was able to work with the PowerPoint Keynote, but just curious. It's that same kind of thing. When we developed the online builder, we had a whole list of things that we wanted to be able to export to. And honestly, Microsoft just made it the easiest. Their file format is kind of the standard. And so we went that route because you can bring that into pretty much anything else. Now, being able to download directly to those file formats will make your life a lot easier. And so it's definitely something that we're going to continue considering and seeing if the ability to format has improved yet. And also he had Apple Pages on that too. And actually he asked for Google Docs. So he was just a few minutes after Erica. All right, this is a longer one, so I'm going to read it aloud as I'm reading it for the first time. What if we already own the CDs for the LSB music? In order to use printed option for the music, we would still need the copyright permissions for the ability to post the words on the screen. We would not have to pay for the rights to the music again unless we want to run automatically within the slideshow. That is correct, and I should clarify that last point, so I'll get to that in a second. But if you already own the LSB CDs, and I didn't talk about this, Ken didn't talk about this, we sell a collection of 31 CDs that has all that music in there. Well, if you want to flip back and forth between the different CDs or download and burn and all that fun stuff, you can, but I think the subscription is better. Now, if you've already invested in, I understand the challenge. That price of adding on a subscription to something you've already invested in, that's a tough one to swallow. And unfortunately, there's not a good option for that. But if you have purchased those CDs, you do have the rights to use them. It's just a matter of convenience with the Concordia Organist subscription. Now, to clarify that last point, to have it run automatically within the slideshow, what the subscription to Concordia Organist does is it gives you access to the files, and then you can, the MP3 files, and then you can use them how you see best. It doesn't automatically include them into the PowerPoints. That's something that our users do, and we don't do that right now because, for one, it's kind of a complex process, and 2, everybody has different ways of doing it. What we'll often see is that people make tweaks to the PowerPoint when it's done because there's other things they want to include in it. Well, that kind of, if you're making those tweaks, it could really mess up that automatic plane, and so that's why we don't have that in there right now. We're looking at different ways to include it because we know that's a popular way of doing it, but it's not in there right now. So if you'd like to include it in your PowerPoint, you can do that yourself. It doesn't happen automatically. All right, I think I answered all of those questions. Ken, can you think of anything that either one of us missed while you're sitting here listening to me answering the questions? I can always see the wheels turning in your head.
Yeah, and that's what I love is when we start getting questions like these, because we're close to it. We do it all the Peter and his team do it all the time. So we really need to get input from people, and we want ideas and thoughts and challenges. I know Peter's team loves a good challenge. Now, we may not be able to do it all the time or right away, but if we get enough of these same type of responses, we're certainly taking a look at it.
Yep, absolutely. And like you mentioned, we're always improving that. That web view actually came up because of that pandemic. As one of our lead developers was working on this with his church and how to roll out, he's like, this would be really helpful. We've had requests similar to this, but if we do this, I could probably get this done by the weekend. And it took him all the way up till the end of the week, but we were able to release it right before Easter. And so it worked out okay for us. But yeah, there's always so many ideas. There's just not enough hours in the day to get them all done. Well, I think that's all. I haven't seen any other questions come in, so we're going to go ahead and wrap up. Thank you again for being here. If you have any other follow-up questions, there's our contact information. Ken, thank you so much for your presentation. As always, it was both informative and entertaining. I always love doing these webinars with you, so thank you very much. And thank you to our audience. I hope this provided the information you need to know if you want to get started with Lutheran Service Builder, and if so, please reach out to us. Thanks again. Have a great day.